The goal of this worksheet is to take some information from different sheets, different tabs down here, and make a calculation to determine the percentage of tasks completed. And what we have to do is use count A and count if together to kind of weed out some of the data that we don't want to take into account and to find out what has actually been done. We're going to calculate a percentage, and the formula that I'm going to use, there's a few ways we could do this, but the formula I'm going to use is very simple. X divided by Y, then multiply that result by 100, and that gives us the percentage. Of course, if we were going to format it actually as a percentage, then different things that we would do. But for this particular exercise, we're going to go ahead and just use this formula, and you can see the result here. Now I'm going to leave this on the screen, and I'm essentially going to recreate it. Project 1. Let's go ahead and fill that to the right. So this is going to be duplicate information, but I want you to see that we get the same results as we build this. Let's look at the formula again. And in fact, I want to have it on the screen for you. So I'm going to copy that, and we'll just put it down here. Of course, with our apostrophe first, so that it actually displays. That is our magical formula. That formula, it calculates exactly what we're looking for. And let's go ahead and break it down into its smaller components. I'm going to use a space bar here to break things up so that hopefully it's a little bit easier to understand. I realize with all these parentheses, sometimes things can get a little confusing. So we're going to go ahead and break it up. And I might have to make it, well, let's move it over here. Yeah, that helps. Okay, so what we have got is, and I'll go ahead and go into pen mode here so that I can maybe draw attention to specific areas. We know that this is one result right here. Okay. That goes to the kin spreadsheet, that specific range, and it's going to tell us how many of those cells are not blank, are not empty. Okay, so we're going to put not empty. Now, this one over here, this is going to tell us how many of the cells are NA. Are NA. What we're doing is we're finding out the number of cells that are not empty, and then we're subtracting NA because those NAs, they're not applicable. They shouldn't be taken into account for our statistics. So let's say there are 8 cells that, a total of 8 tasks that need to be completed. And 2 of them are empty, 1 of them is NA. Well, in that case, really, we only need to take into consideration 7 of the tasks, since 1 of them is NA, and 2 of them haven't been, they haven't had anything done to them, so that means we've got 5 out of 7 completed. So this would give us 5, because we've got a total number of 8 tasks. 1 of them is being disqualified because it's NA, that's 7, and then 2 are blank, so that leaves us with 5. Now, we take into account again, we go to count if, and we're taking the whole range of tasks that are not NA. Because again, we can't count them if they're NA. So it goes in, it looks at all 8 tasks, and it says, hey, 1 of those is NA, so it leaves us with the number 7. So what this is giving us in this example is 5 divided by 7 times 100. And that will give us one of these percentages up here. Okay? Hopefully that's not too terribly confusing, but we know that it works. Okay, so let's just watch it as we build it. Here's the way that you're going to build this. Equal sign. And granted, all these parentheses and stuff like that sometimes when you build a formula like this, especially a complex one, you might add those formulas later on. So I'm going to do this just as we would build it, and you'll see, the whole process, not just a finished formula that I already know. So I'm going to build it just like I would actually try to figure it out. Count A, and then we want to reference that other sheet here, Project 1 and Ken. We're going to click and drag all the way across here, and then hit Enter. And we got to go back in the formula here. That tells us there are 6. And if we take a look at the Ken sheet here, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 tasks. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, we have to count the NA for right now, 6 of them are not blank, and that's why we get the number 6 here. Okay, so what we have to do next is subtract any of those, legitimate non-blank values that are NA, because NA, we don't want to include them. So we're going to go ahead and subtract count if. We'll head back over, and we're going to do the same range. Right? Hit Enter. And it doesn't like a parenthesis situation that we've got going on here. No big deal. I will fix that here directly. But we are counting. Okay, what is our criteria? Anything that is NA, we want to get rid of it. NA. All right, so we go through the range, do count A, anything non-zero, but then we want to go through that same range and subtract anything that is NA. So we should get a number 5 here. Yep, there we go. Now we want to take that whole thing and we want to divide it by the number of cells that, again, are not NA. So in this case, this is where we want to get those parentheses in, because, again, it helps us not only group things together and determine the order, because we have what's called operator precedence, which order mathematical things are going to happen: multiplication, division, subtraction. So we want to make sure that everything happens in the right order. Plus, this kind of helps us visually to group things together. Notice by adding those parentheses, if I hit Enter, that doesn't change the performance of the formula. You can add as many parenthesis sets of them as you want, as long as you put them in the right place. But what we have to do next is divide that by count if, and this needs to be, again, the whole range, but anything that is not NA. So let's go back and grab our range. You can, of course, type it if you want to, but I'm going to just specify like this. And I keep getting slammed with that error because that extra parenthesis I think needs to be on there. Not just yet, though. And double quote, not equal, that's the less than and greater than signs together, not equal to NA with an asterisk on either end, and then double quotes to close that off, and our closing parenthesis. Now we'll get something a little bit strange at this point, 0.625, but that's because we now need to multiply by 100. Okay, but that gives us 62.5, which we take that as a percent. Now let me show you how I fixed this so that same formula, when you type something as complicated as this, you don't want to have to keep retyping it. So the way that I fixed that, though, is I could just slide and fill, and then I would have to go in, and you'll notice that the numbers get kind of tweaked, right? Because it's trying to do relative referencing. So let's undo that. And in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can modify this formula using relative and absolute referencing together.